And I can only hope that despite my flaws, and despite my craps and my breaks, and there are many of them, that at every premiere and everything I do, people will wait in line to see.
How do you go from Hollywood's golden girl to the most disliked actress on the internet? That's the question haunting Rachel Zegler, the once rising star who had everything in front of her. A Spielberg-backed breakout, a major Disney role, and the spotlight of a generation. But in less than a year, she went from being America's sweetheart to Hollywood's biggest PR disaster. What happened wasn't just a misstep. It was a slow-burning implosion, fueled by arrogance, amplified by the internet, and sealed by one of the most embarrassing box office performances in Disney's history. The video that started it all.
When the winged victory came to the Louvre in pieces, and people still line up to see her.
It was supposed to be her moment of redemption. Rachel Zegler sat in what looked like her bedroom, gazing into the camera with tearful eyes and a clenched jaw. In a now viral video, she attempted to reclaim the narrative, pushing back against the hate, insisting people still showed up for her work. But instead of softening hearts, the internet exploded. TikTokers immediately began stitching the clip, mocking her tone. Some made skits, others reacted in disbelief. Her monologue came off as overly dramatic, overly rehearsed, and completely out.
Excuse me, your curtain. Please allow me to help.
Help? From you?
I didn't mean to offend. I just thought you should know that
That I should know what? That some privileged white guy thinks his opinion matters? Get over your entitlement. I'm not some damsel in distress waiting for you to ride in on your high horse.
I can only hope that despite my flaws, people will wait in line to see me. That line was meant to be heartfelt, but online it read more like narcissism than vulnerability. And it didn't take long before critics turned that moment into fuel.
Hello, Disney. You're going to have to redo your film again because this woman is a pig and you fired Gina Carano for far less than this nonsense.
I think it's fair to say that no one can stand the star of this movie.
Given all the behind-the-scenes mayhem, I expected a Frankenstein's monster were seen to be stitched together. I think a lot of these live-action updates are really hard to watch. They've really done so much stepping on rakes over the last few months with this project where the box office is just not going to recover.
But that clip was just the tip of the iceberg. The backlash was already brewing. Long before the video, Rachel had already been rubbing people the wrong way. During early press for Snow White, she made headlines, but not the kind Disney wanted. She mocked the original 1937 film, called it weird, dismissed the love story, claimed the prince was a stalker.
Rachel Zegler has been described as a walking PR disaster for Disney.
I know that you've told me before that your version of Snow White is different and it's more of a 2022 version of Snow White. What did you mean by that?
I mean, you know, the original cartoon came out in 1937, and very evidently so.
If I'm going to stand there 18 hours in a dress of an iconic Disney princess, I deserve to be paid for every hour that it is streamed online.
We absolutely wrote a Snow White that is
not going to be saved by the prince.
She's not going to be saved by the prince, and she's not going to be dreaming about true love. She's dreaming about becoming the leader she knows she can.
Let that sink in. By comparison, The Little Mermaid, despite its own controversies, opened at $95 million. Rachel's Snow White wasn't just a disappointment, it was a disaster. Within days, theater chains began pulling the film from their biggest screens. By the second week, some dropped it entirely. It wasn't just underperforming, it was sinking. And while fans joked online about Snowflop, Disney execs weren't laughing. But the numbers were just one piece. The real damage was personal. The Oscars, awkward silence, and cold shoulders. Her next major public appearance was at the Oscars. On paper, it was a huge deal. Rachel presenting alongside co-star Gal Gadot. But on camera, the tension was ice cold.
Snow White, budget $250 million, box office $43 million. Oh, but it's only been 2 days, give it a chance. No, I'm not gonna give it a chance. I'm not even talking about that number. Because like all the flops are unsurprising at this point. Something is going on behind the scenes with almost every major animation, video game, and movie studio that they're doing this intentionally or something. I don't f***ing know. I'm not even gonna talk about this. People are like, oh wow, Snow White flopped. Who is surprised? You cast arguably the least genuine, most out of touch, and disliked person in her industry, and her industry is Hollywood. And the bad guy is Gal Gadot.
And flat out said her version wouldn't have a love interest at all. For generations of fans, her comments weren't fresh or feminist. They were insulting. She wasn't offering a new take. She was trashing a classic. And then came the question of casting. Disney's original Snow White is described as the fairest of them all, a literal reference to her appearance. But Rachel pushed back on that, too, saying Snow White in the new version got her name from surviving a snowstorm. Fans were confused. Critics said the whole story was being rewritten to push an agenda. Still, Disney stood behind her until the numbers hit. The box office bloodbath. The film had a jaw-dropping $250 million budget, but on opening weekend, it barely scraped $45 million at the domestic box office.
Please welcome Rachel Zegler and Gal Gadot.
Visual effects push the boundaries of what we see on screen.
Their work makes the impossible seem possible.
With breathtaking ambition, they create magic that wraps its arms around our wildest imaginations.
Here are the nominees for Best Visual Effects.
Photos showed Gal barely acknowledging Rachel. No eye contact, no interaction, just a stiff, awkward energy that screamed, "We're not on good terms." Body language experts had a field day, and gossip blogs confirmed what people were already thinking. Gal had quietly distanced herself from the film and its star. What made it worse? Gal's own career seemed untouched. She moved on to new roles, new deals, and new press appearances. Meanwhile, Rachel was left completely alone. No public support, no co-stars tweeting her name, no industry allies defending her. It was silence. And that silence spoke volumes. The internet piles on. Once the film flopped, the vultures circled. Old interviews resurfaced. Clips of Rachel rolling her eyes at the original Snow White, scoffing at romance, laughing off classic Disney tropes.
It's no longer 1937, and we absolutely wrote a Snow White that is
saved by the prince.
She's not going to be saved by the prince, and she's not going to be dreaming
So she's
about
gonna die.
true love. She's dreaming about becoming the leader she knows she can. I was scared of the original cartoon. I think I watched it once, and then I never picked it up again. Never revisited Snow White again. So I watched it for the first time in probably 16, 17 years.
People weren't just disappointed. They were offended. Parents said they wouldn't take their kids to see someone who disrespected the original. Grandparents made TikToks explaining why the 1937 version mattered to them and why they felt betrayed. Even casual fans joined in. Comment sections filled with words like smug, entitled, and out of touch. And this wasn't just trolling. It was a digital mob, a full-blown takedown. And unlike other celebs who weather backlash with grace or humor, Rachel didn't pivot. She doubled down. She lashed out. And the more she spoke, the worse it got.
I never wanted to come off as me being ungrateful for the opportunities I have. I can also be having the greatest time and simultaneously wishing people would stop sending me death threats.
And if you disagree with this sentiment, just hit the unfollow button. I don't need your business.
You know, what's really interesting about this is not that this is something new. Rachel Zegler has been doing this for a very long time.
What began as criticism of a few controversial statements snowballed into a broader rejection of her entire public persona. Fans accused her of being insincere, disconnected from her audience, and tone-deaf in how she approached the legacy of a beloved Disney character. Every old interview clip became another nail in the coffin, painting a picture of someone who looked down on the very fan base she was supposed to win over. Career consequences behind the scenes. Behind the scenes, Hollywood took notice. Studios began backing away. Future roles that were once hers were suddenly up in the air. One insider said Rachel had been in talks for multiple major roles until the Snow White fallout made execs nervous. Marketing teams started asking the hard questions. Is she still bankable? Will audiences buy tickets to see her, or will they just remember the backlash?
Alright guys, I watched Snow White, so you don't have to. Let's get into it. Now, first things first, Snow White gets her name not from the fairness of her skin, as we obviously know Rachel Zegler would be a miscast in that sense. Instead, she gets her name from surviving a snowstorm. Her father and mother are king and queen to a utopian communist society. I'm not joking, guys. Everybody shares and is mindful of what each person is getting, and we spread our resources evenly, which is where this idea of fairness, as Snow White is the fairest of them all, is really presented in the film.
In an industry built on perception, the answer mattered, and the perception wasn't good. Rachel Zegler, the actress who once had Spielberg in her corner, was suddenly viewed as a liability. Worse still, the damage was bleeding into her future. Projects in development were allegedly paused. Her name was reportedly pulled from initial casting conversations. Even her presence in marketing materials for unrelated films became a risk, with studios fearing potential backlash simply from associating with her. A symbol of everything fans hate. But this wasn't just about one actress or one movie. To many, Rachel became a symbol of Hollywood's disconnect from its own audience, a symbol of celebrity ego, of disrespecting legacy content, of rewriting classics to make a statement rather than tell a good story. Her feminist retelling didn't land. Instead of empowerment, fans saw condescension. Instead of sincerity, they saw self-importance. Hollywood has long tried to modernize its classics, but Rachel's portrayal felt more like a lecture than a performance. Her comments suggested that previous generations had it wrong, that she was here to fix it. And in doing so, she alienated the very people whose support she needed most. And perhaps worst of all, she failed to recognize what audiences actually wanted. Respect for the original with a fresh touch, not a total Tyrone. The redemption arc that never came. You'd think this is where her PR team would step in, craft a heartfelt apology, schedule soft press interviews, maybe show some humility, but instead Rachel stayed defiant. No apology, no charm offensive, just more clips, more snark, more doubling down. And with every move, her path back got narrower, because in this era, people don't forget. And when you lose public trust, it's almost impossible to buy it back. Some of the biggest comebacks in Hollywood history have started with a simple act: accountability. But Rachel's refusal to meet her audience halfway only made things worse. Even those who were willing to give her a second chance found themselves turned off by the lack of self-awareness. Conclusion: from breakout to breakdown. Rachel Zegler's story isn't just a tale of bad press. It's a full-on industry case study. She had it all: critical acclaim, award wins, a major franchise lead role. But her confidence turned to arrogance. Her authenticity became aloofness. And her unwillingness to connect with the audience turned admiration into anger. In the end, Rachel didn't just tank a movie. She fractured her entire public image. And in a world where perception is everything, that's the kind of damage that doesn't fade with time. Whether she'll recover from this remains to be seen. But for now, Rachel Zegler's Hollywood fairy tale has become a cautionary tale, a reminder that in today's media landscape, one wrong move can spark a fall from grace heard around the world. Was Rachel Zegler's career downfall well-deserved, or just Hollywood karma catching up? Be honest. Did she fumble the bag, or was she never built for the spotlight? Drop your unfiltered thoughts in the comments.